I'm Dr. Anthony Harper here, blessed to be with the pastor of the Russian church here in DC area. Pastor, what is your name and the name of the church?
My name is Father Victor Potapov. I'm the rector of the Russian Orthodox Church of St. John the Baptist. I've been here for 47 years. I'm of Russian and Ukrainian descent. My mother is from Ukraine. My father is from Russia proper. I can say the same for my wife. She's also half Russian, half Ukrainian. And you'll find that when you study the history of Russia and Ukraine, it's hard to distinguish the difference between the two countries. Of course, the language is a little bit different between the two. Ukrainians have their own dialect of the Slavic language, which is called Ukrainian. And of course, the Russians speak the classic Russian language.
Okay. Now, the people in your church are most of them from Russia, or there are American citizens that are from Russia?
Well, we have people of absolutely different nationalities. We have about 30 to 40% people who are from Ukraine, about the same from Russia, who are second or third generation Russians and Ukrainians. And we have also Chinese, Koreans, Georgians, Serbians, you name it, we have it in the parish. We have about 500 families, and thank God we all live in peace and harmony. And of course, obviously, everyone is deeply, deeply concerned with the events taking place in Ukraine as we speak.
Okay, so what is your major concern about what is happening right now? What I was also concerned about, what could be the U.S. be doing to help people in this situation?
The biggest concern for us, of course, and the biggest tragedy is brother is fighting brother. The brother is killing brother. Orthodox Christians are on opposite sides, and this is a tragedy. Any kind of war is a tragedy. Like Metropolitan Mufti of Kiev, all Ukraine said in one of his sermons after the beginning of the military operation in Ukraine, he said that any wars is a dreadful sin against God, because human life is a creation of God. It doesn't belong to us, it belongs to Him ultimately. And when we take human life into our own hands, it can only be characterized as a grave sin. But what can America do? Well, I think, it's a little bit too late to speak about that, because the Russians, for years, have been with great alarm watching as NATO, which is advertised as a defensive alliance, has been moving east closer and closer to Russia. The West, particularly America, has been arming the Ukrainians, and of course these arms shipments are not being done from the kindness of our heart. It's all being sold to Ukraine, and Ukraine is the poorest country in Europe, and they really can't afford to buy weapons when the whole economy is in shadows. But unfortunately, the West didn't take Russia's concern seriously. And just recently, just on the eve of the military operation in Ukraine, President Zelensky came out and said that Ukraine wants an atomic bomb. So all these things are alarming to Russians. The Russians in World War II lost 28 million people. The situation in the Donbass, the war actually began not a week ago, 6 days ago. It began 8 years ago, when the Donbass wanted to break with Ukraine because of what they were seeing happening in the Maidan, when a duly elected democratic president was toppled in an illegal coup d'etat, which the West enthusiastically supported. That's when all of these unpleasantness began 8 years ago. But of course, it's never too late for diplomacy. Diplomacy is the only way to deal with situations. I mean, war should not happen in the 21st century. It just should not happen.
I'm thinking about the Declaration of Independence here in the United States, about the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that these God-given rights that we have aren't really being upheld. And it is very sad. And what would your message to Christians in Ukraine be right now?
My message to the people in Ukraine is to listen to the leader, your religious leader, Metropolitan Nufi. He's a saintly man who wants only peace, and all of the messages that he's been giving to his people are all ones of peace, and the fact that we need to sit down and, as brothers, figure this out without more bloodshed. My message to my brothers and sisters in Kyiv and all of Ukraine is to pray, because only God can inspire us to do what is necessary to achieve peace and in friendship again.
How is the Russian Orthodox Church having any influence with Russian President Putin?
Well, our patriarch in Moscow has also been preaching and sending messages that we need to end this conflict as soon as possible and sit down and talk and hammer something out in a peaceful manner. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's influencing Mr. Putin in any way or not. I certainly hope so. The Russians claim that, the government claims in Russia that what they're doing is they want to end the war that began 8 years ago. They want to demilitarize Ukraine. They want Ukraine to become a neutral country and not be turned into an anti-Russian country. Because there are millions of Russians who live in Ukraine. There are millions of Russians and Ukrainians who have intermarried. And this is a terrible wound in the souls of all these people, because they have relatives on both sides of the border.
Mm-hmm. So, it is troubling, and I would invite people that are watching this to pray for you and everyone there, and our brothers and sisters in Russia and Ukraine. Very difficult time. We know that Christ is the King of Peace. Absolutely. And I would like, and I know many would want for Christ to be here to resolve this, and he could easily do that. I know a lot of people might have concerns about why God doesn't intervene sooner in this matter, but there's the issue of free will.
Exactly. God has created all of us free. We make our own choices, and well, we can always blame God, but God doesn't want to take away our freedom. He wants us to grow up, to be mature, to understand that this is a grave sin against God and humanity, any kind of war. So we need to make that decision. We need to come to Christ and hear his message. Blessed are the peacemakers, Christ said. So may we find more peacemakers on both sides of the dividing line.
I'm curious about how many Christians might be serving in the Russian army versus how many Christians might be in the Ukrainian army.
Well, I think the vast majority of people on both sides are Christians. They may have been baptized without really learning too much about Christianity. Let's face it, the Soviet Union was an officially atheistic, militantly atheistic government for 70 years. Christians and people of other faiths were mercilessly persecuted for 70 years. So, people who grew up under the communist atheist regime never had the luxury of being able to attend Christian schools and learn Christianity from their childhood. I mean, the new Russia and new Ukraine have been in existence only for 30 years. It takes the time, it takes a while, but formally speaking, they're all Christians. They're baptized, and some of them are more pious than others, but the vast majority are, of course, Christians.
Mm-hmm. Very painful time. I hope that people will pray and do all that they can to ask for God for help in this matter, and hopefully there will be a peaceful resolution here very soon. And I know it's troubling to a lot of people, and I witnessed this at the White House, dealing with other media and the President Biden's staff there, their concerns, and so hopefully we'll get a good answer here soon, all with the help of God, and may God protect all of you there in Russia, our brothers and sisters, as well as in Ukraine and around the world that are suffering.
Yes, absolutely. May God hear our prayers.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your concerns, and may we have peace here very shortly.
Thank you for your concerns as well. Appreciate it, coming from a person who has nothing to do with Russia or Ukraine.
Yes. Well, as a Christian person, I just want to follow Christ and promote what he wants is peace, for us to love one another and support one another as most we can. So hopefully this miracle will be happening soon for both Russia and Ukraine, peace. So
God help us all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We read news every day, news that's informative but rarely encouraging. The Intermountain Christian newspaper aims to change that. They present the news you need to know, from what's going on in your community to your world, with encouraging words, motivation, and the resources you need to make positive changes in your life. What is your local government doing that you need to know about? What's happening in your community you need to be a part of? Whether it's a story from your neighborhood, a national story, or an encouraging word, you'll find biblical issues of everyday life in the Intermountain Christian newspaper. Intermountain Christian News is produced and supported by the work and donations of individuals and churches. You'll find it at churches, Christian bookstores, by subscription, and online at imcnews.org. To find out more about supporting this local resource, go online at imcnews.org or call Intermountain Christian News in Boise, Idaho at 208-703-8688. The Intermountain Christian News, a voice sharing the truth on matters dear to people's hearts.